Hi, Tim Qualls. Welcome to Silverbrook Cemeteries. And when I say that, we're going to talk about pre-planning, and we're going to talk about some other things because Claudia here with me, as she always is. And we got into talking about some things this morning because we always, you know, nice thing with you and I, we sit down and we chit-chat before we just enjoy each other's company and just talking about things going on. And something we never talk about, you know, that a lot of people, and you were going to have a special guest, and hopefully we'll get him on here in the future, but talk about hospice. I mean, you know, and what hospice is, and what are, you know, they kind of know things that can kind of guide you where you're at with the situations.
They absolutely can, because one of the things that I learned about hospice in doing some research about it and have had some contact with hospice in previous employment, experiences that I've had, is that hospice, first of all, doesn't mean it's a death sentence for you at all.
Yeah, because I hate to interrupt you, because when my wife was going through it, and and they said to me, Tim, you might want to consider bringing hospice in. I thought, well, we're not ready for that. She's not dying, blah blah, but. They explained to me, well, hospice is just an assistance, a home in care, program.
Exactly.
If you would,
And there's different levels of hospice. My experience with hospice was at the end stage. That person needed hospice those last few months or those last few days, maybe.
Right.
And that's my experience with it. But I've learned such, some new things about hospice that I didn't know, and that's why I think it'd be important for the expert to come on and talk about that. How it relates to what I do, it certainly does, especially talking about pre-planning, because in any stage of it, it's certainly a good time to think about, And
something I didn't think about when I because I did have to contact hospice, but you never, when you're in that situation, I guess you never get to that point, Claudia, where you want to accept where it is. I mean, especially when there's something, if you expect older people, that you know that's coming, and so you kind of get that into your mind. But when you never know when death's going to come, you just don't.
You don't know, and certainly, the families are already going through a hard time, and the last thing they want to see is hospice come into their house. Probably that's how I would feel, because I wouldn't want it. That's going to make me probably look at and some things that I don't even want to think about or acknowledge at this point in time. And then to turn around and talk about pre-planning is another thing. However, the necessity of it, as we've been talking about this last almost year, the necessity of it and how important it is to at least think about it, because for anybody it's coming. And how important it is to educate yourself and the family. And if you're going through a situation where you've got a person who may be terminal or whatever in your family, or a friend or whatever, to know what the next step would be and how to go about pre-planning.
Yeah, and what I want to get, too, and get people to realize, because I'm pre-planning my own right now. I mean, I know that, they say there's only two things that they're sure in life, and that's death and taxes, and we know death is for sure. It's none of us are going to dodge that at all, and eventually going to get there. And pre-planning is so important, not only for yourself, but the people that more for the people around you. You've experienced it.
Yes,
you don't, like I said, you don't know when death's going to come, but when it comes, you've got all this massive things that hit you. It's so much easier and peaceful. If you got all that in line already, now you can turn to grieving right away. But if you're in that situation and it hits you and you're not prepared for it, and you didn't do that pre-planning, you're in the middle of grieving and you're making decisions, major decisions, and you know the cost
in
of
a
this.
short amount of time, and different things. As my family, we're dealing with it yet again, last week and into this
God
week.
Bless you.
Thank you. However, we dealt with it about 1.5 years ago. From that experience, we've learned how to manage this experience. So it was smoother, that the family knew exactly what they didn't want and exactly what they did want at this point in time. So doing it, getting it done right away, and even being able to do some things that they weren't able to do before up until the interment time, the funeral time, they're able to do this time. Because it's been thought out. They've gone through the experience, and they've learned from
I,
it, or we've
I
learned
hate to
from
say, but experience is a plus when it comes to that, because I've gone through a couple of them myself, and God knows you're experiencing it as a daily basis. We're talking about, and how stressful of a job people don't realize when it comes to working at it.
And it really is.
Yeah, because you're not only taking care of the needs of those that are in that state right now, but you also have to take care of the needs of those that come to see their loved ones, and being sure all that is, and you can't make everything perfect. You know that as well as I do. But you guys, you do what you do, and really good.
We do. I think I've said several times on this show that the guys, they do a spectacular job.
Yeah, because they're out there.
It's a very, very large
it
cemetery.
It doesn't matter what the weather is. They're still there.
And I'm going to say we have Mikey, we have Tom, and we have David, and it's been, I can't do what I do without their help and support.
Right.
And so, I always want to make sure that everyone knows that they do work really hard, and they do the best they can, and they do a fantastic job for us.
Yeah.
But it's a very difficult job because the weather changes, and then when things happen to stones and markers and things, they have to be fixed. However, times like this year, we had a lot of rain. We had a lot of wet stuff going on the cemetery, so you just can't run out and change things right away, because the ground conditions have to be conducive to be able to do that.
Right.
Mainly dry.
Right.
So,
but I look at it because I was by this the other day, and when I go by there, I like pulling in, because it's like going to a park. It really is. It's really peaceful. You can go through there, and I was watching the guys. And they got 2 or 3 things going on at one time. I mean, they're opening graves, closing graves, and at the same time taking care of, So these guys, it's nonstop for them, and then you have to, because it's not a small, when you're talking about it.
It's not small.
A lot of it's walking,
And this time of year, the cold part of the year, I'm not going to say it's a slower part. There's really no slow part for them, but
they don't have to mow the lawn.
And that's in stages. And the mowing is starting. That season is coming. It's right around the corner. And you've seen how big it is. They have to do it in stages and like a cycle of mowing. A cycle of mowing, because you mow it on Monday, you got to turn around and go back to it on Thursday. And that's just the way it is. And they divide and they conquer, and that's how it works. But it's nice.
And over the years, because I want to talk about Silverbrook just a little bit, then we'll get back into pre-plan. Because Silverbrook, one of your older cemeteries in the area.
Yes,
I mean,
it is.
It was and I look at it when it was established. It was on the outskirts of Wilmington. If you would.
1895. Horse and buggies.
But now it's right in the heart of Wilmington.
It is.
If you would, in a great location, easy access from a couple of different entry points there, and it's been there for a while. And when you look at it, we talk about it nearly every show. The selection you have as the style that you want and where you want to be. You've got the Greek section. You got you've got it sectioned off nice, and then you've got different areas. I mean, you've got the old area, you've got the new area with monuments, and you've got the park-like area, then you got the mausoleum. I mean, you've got it all.
It's really I don't know if it's really, because there's a society, a historic society, and I don't know if Silverbrook would qualify. I don't know. I might look into that. It's 100 years old, but when you come in the main entrance of the cemetery, that's what you see first. You see the history of it. That's the oldest part of the cemetery, right in the front. And as you move down the boulevard, you go into section 3
and it is a boulevard.
And it is.
It's a long road.
And which really does help me when I'm leading a funeral, because sometimes you have to use both roads, depending if you got 2 coming in at the same time. Well, that happens now and then. But you go into section 3 and section 2, and you see the change. You see the change in the stones. The era has changed, where you go from really big, huge stones, or crosses and things that were made out of something different. But now it's just granite, and you see how it's changed to pinks and blacks and blues and
some of the prettiest stones.
Very beautiful stones.
Yeah.
And then you keep going back, and you have your section 4, you have a Muslim section, you have a Greek section in 3, we have the Memorial Park, we have lawn crypts, which we call the Garden of Devotion, and we have a baby section, and it goes on and on.
It's well laid out, and like I said, it's very peaceful just to go through. It's like going into a park.
And the community will use it as that. You know, we get customers that walk their dogs through, or you might see them jogging through, and it really is a nice place to read and just kind
Well, I
of
was going to say, when you're going through there, reading the headstones is very interesting on some of them. I mean, you'll be surprised who's buried out there as well.
Surprised. You know, we had a Titanic survivor actually be buried there. That was really special.
Right.
It was, because I love that kind of thing.
And that's what you're going to see out there, the history, because it is history. That's what it is. I mean, and I like the entry point there, because the White family, of course, you know, they've got right there, you call it the boulevard. I guess they're kind of in the middle of the boulevard.
They're right in the front.
Right.
They're right in the front as you come in. As a matter of fact, as the boulevard divides, when you come in the front entrance, you have right at the top of that circle across from the office, that's where the Whites family, their history, they're interred right there in the front.
Right, and that's very interesting to me, because that takes you back to where it all began. I mean, that's where, you know, it all started right there with those, and the markers, like you said, some of them are just spectacular. The older, I like the older ones a lot more than I do, because today we're restricted to everything. Back in those days, those people, you know, they could build a monument for themselves, you know, so, and a lot of them did. I mean,
yeah, they did. Yes, they did.
And marked families, you got a lot of it. And that's important. If you're looking as a family to all want to be in one area, you can make that happen. But you you can't go out there and say, okay, I'm gonna bury this one today.
Right.
20 years from now, expected that spot to be beside them. And that's what we talk about when we talk about pre-planning. You know, one of the biggest things that you can do if you want that is buy the plot. The plot, you're going to get a good deal, because 20 years from now it's going to cost you a lot more than what it is going to cost you today. But once you buy the plot, it's yours. You own that section there. Now, opening a hole is another game.
Right, it is. That's another example.
And rules change on a regular basis.
Yes, they do.
You know, and what you can do and what you can't do. I mean, right now we're into and I don't want to call them wrong, the vaults that have to go in the state of Delaware. You have to have a vault in the ground, and different style vaults and stuff, and different ones do different things. I mean, you educated me on a lot of that. I mean,
yeah, I mean, you can get a standard vault, which will provide the security of the casket and the remains. And you can also buy something that might cost you a couple $1,000. Does the same thing, but you can go from standard to something very fancy if you want to.
Right.
You know, you have a choice. But as far as the function of that, the function of it is the same for security in the ground.
Right.
You know?
And you know, and keeping the ground from collapsing
Absolutely.
in, if you will.
It definitely stabilizes the grave area.
Right,
It does.
and that's something that everybody's got to. Now, you got a lot of people that, you know, we talk about the stacking of graves as well.
Double-deck burials, we do a lot of double-deck burials, which, you know, that's becoming very popular. You know, actually, for families, you can buy one single grave and turn it into two.
Right.
Of course, there's an extra fee for that, but at the same time, you can take one grave and actually turn it into interments for 4. You can take one grave and use it for 2 full interments, and then you can use it for 2 cremains at the top of that. So you can actually inter 4 people in one grave.
Yeah, and then on top of that, could you speak of that? I got to get to the cremation part of it, because I think that's one of the most fascinating stories. And if anything that could register in a historical society here in the state of Delaware would be the crematory that you have there, because at one point, you know, you look back in history, I dare somebody to try to find an older crematory in this area, you know, and the amount of remains and stuff that they've had come through there. We've had astronauts cremated out there, you know, so it's a very historical crematory, and it's the same one you're using today that they use. Yeah.
Same one, and it's very busy.
Yeah.
Every day. Every day.
Yeah. Now we got to get you know, to the parts I don't like, because there are, like I said, you have different rules and regulations, and those change on a regular basis. You know, government controls a lot of things today, and they can control the graveyards as well. And when you talk about that, we have certain rules, because you have to have a funeral home involved with the funeral. You just can't go out here and say, okay, I'm going to let you guys handle it all, because you can't handle the body.
Right.
But you can handle a lot of the expenses that, and if you pre-plan, you don't want to wait until the last minute.
Right.
But even if it is a last minute, go see. The body's going to be getting taken care of. You know, so you've got time. You know, there's no, and there again, I stress it's just a body. You know, that person, as far as my belief, has moved on to another, and that's just a, you know, was their vehicle, if you
Right.
would, through life.
Right.
But that's being taken care of. You've already sent that. You don't have to go to that funeral home. I want to stress that. You don't have to go to that funeral home to make all your arrangements. You can make your arrangements through you. Some of the things are, you're going to find better.
Well,
it's shopping. I hate to say it.
It
that
is
it's
shopping, and even though we do collaborate, you know, to make it happen, to make the interment happen, we work very closely with the funeral homes, most all of them in the state and some of them out of the state, and we do two different things, but there's no order of things. You can come to the cemetery first, and you can make your interment arrangements through us first. And then you can go to the funeral home and take care of that part of it. There's no order of things, which is one of the things I learned when I first started working at the cemetery. In my life, when we've dealt with it as a family, first place we went was the funeral home, because we didn't know any other.
Well, that's most people
And,
don't. I mean, when it happened to me, that's where I went. But I remember going, reflecting back on it, because there again, you're in a state of mind. You're really, you know, not truly there. And I look back on it, and I still had to go to the cemetery to make those arrangements. They set it up at the meeting and stuff, but it was me that had to go there and make those arrangements. Now, if I'd gone there first, would I have, or, you know, and it's nice to have funeral directors, because they do a fantastic job.
They absolutely do. We work with great funeral homes.
Professional people, and they kind of take a lot of that burden off of you by just saying, you know, this has been arranged, that's being taken care of, blah, blah, blah. But if you pre-plan, and that's what we want to get to, it's, once again, that pre-plan and not wait until that last minute. There's a lot of things that you can take care of, and there's a lot of shopping you can do to save thousands. I'm not talking, you know, a few dollars, I'm talking thousands of dollars. Because it's already planned, it's already taken care of. You know what all the steps are. Because I mean, the vaults, we talk about those. You know, those range from this to you know, and there's a lot between them. You know, so what exactly do you want in a vault?
Right.
You know, and you can, as somebody that runs a cemetery, you can explain to people what that particular vault does for them. I mean,
what the function is.
Yeah.
You know why it's needed, because some people don't even realize that they need one.
Right.
You know, they might not learn that until they get to us or the funeral home, that they even need this additional expensive item. They might not even know that. But there's so much that they can learn about how much they can get done when the time comes. There's really not a lot that they need to do as far as the cemetery is concerned. I've had families come in the last year who've gotten everything right up to their stone.
Right.
And the only thing that anyone has to worry about when the time comes is opening and closing and getting the name and dates engraved on the stone, if it's an upright stone. Everything else is done.
Yeah, and when you talk
It's a
about that, because I
relief.
got to say what a fantastic job it was, and that's how you and I met, was through Mr. White, of course, and he told me that you guys did the stones, and I went over and worked with you, and how much you helped me in selecting the proper stone, you know. In fact, we looked at one, and when you knew what I was looking for, when you saw the one that we picked out, wasn't what it, you know, what I was looking for.
I have fun with it.
Yeah.
I enjoy doing it because the variety that I get to work with in granite, the colors and the shapes and different designs is I love doing that, and I love to make the families happy when they see it and they're so happy with what they get. You know, I really like doing that. But when it comes to the flat markers, it's the same thing. It's being creative, and it gives you time to do that.
Well, we're going to take just a real quick break and let you look around Silverbrook here for just a second. We'll be right back to talk about more pre-planning. That's what we've got to get into, so stay with us. I'm telling you, it's like going to a park. I mean, I just enjoy the scenery there. It's a, you know, at different times of the year, you know, we got the fall, you got the winter, you got spring coming, you know, you're blooming. You know, it's very enjoyable.
It's getting ready to get really pretty.
Yeah, and there's a lot of them out there today that don't have, when I say that, cemeteries, that don't have to offer what you have to offer. I mean, you've got just any kind of situation, and most of them is either that park setting, or a lot of them you can't get into the stones at all. I mean, you have the in-ground stones, and or you know, it's just different things. You have it all there. You have it all.
We do, and that's what makes it so unique and so nice, because when people come, like you said, to shop and to look for things, there's such a variety. That's why I like to do tours. I had a family come in yesterday where I'm actually going to be doing a tour for them sometime next week, and I said, you know, you're thinking about a stone, you really don't know how you want to bury at this point. Let's do the tour, and I can show you several ways and several things that you can get. And they were like, oh, I didn't realize that I had that much choice. I said, well, here you definitely have a lot of choice. You don't even have to go in ground. We have mausoleums too.
Oh yeah,
so,
and you know, just it just blows my mind every time I talk to you or go out there. I see so many more choices. I mean, we talk about crematoria. You've got an actual.
You have a cremation garden.
Yeah, a garden.
That's
there.
right next to the crematorium, which makes it really nice.
Yeah, and you go out there, and that's a full graveyard in itself, where people, you know, want to. So some people don't want to take the ashes; they want to still have the burial service, not as much as expensive as a regular, you know, service does. And there again, you don't control that. I want people to understand. You know, the funeral home has to make those arrangements for you. You guys can't set up the crematory and all that. And,
you know, they have to orchestrate your cremation. You just can't say, you know, have your loved one come to us and we do. Can't do that.
Yeah, that's why I'm going to tell people right now. That's, if you're thinking of that away, that's something you definitely want to shop. I mean, I was amazed after meeting with you guys. I can say these things. I know you know, you have to do business with these folks out here and everything else, so you can't. But I found out with that situation, that price ranges everywhere from $1,000 to $4,000 or $5,000. You know,
it's the least expensive when it comes to that versus a full interment. However, cremation burials are not really that inexpensive. They can be expensive for a cremation burial. They can be.
Yeah.
You know, but you have to go to a licensed funeral home director to have them orchestrate your business, your cremation business.
Right.
And that's just,
so
that's law.
You know, and that's where pre-planning comes in, folks. And we're going to talk about that right now, because if you're looking at that side of it, now you can go around and these different, because you pick up the phone, you don't even have to go. You pick up the phone and call them and talk to them one-on-one. Find a way, make that arrangement today. You know, make that arrangement. Now that's gone. Now you know, that's out of the way. Now where they're going to do the crematory, you know, that's important, because different ones, some of them have on-site things and stuff like that. If you want to, and that's your right to say, hey, I want it to happen here, and this is how I want it to happen. Any funeral home can arrange that. I mean, you know, through you guys, if that's the way they want to do it. Because I look at that history point, you know, and I'm thinking, you know, maybe some of that astronaut asked, you know, no, but that doesn't happen. I mean, you guys, you know, are on top of all that, and it's very important that all the ashes are removed and all that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's a whole different professional realm, you know, that you know, there's laws, strict laws with that. So,
very strict laws. And so, you know, but, you know, it's just me, the thought of the history that and, you know, I can say, hey, my mom and dad was there, and so was, you know, so-and-so, you know, and it's so important. But, you know, definitely shop that. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. But the biggest thing, and you've had a young lady on here a couple of different times from insurance, and we talk about insurance. Very, very important part of paying for things that keeps that cost down. And I hate to bring it up, you know, at this stage of what I'm going to talk about, but if you have kids, even, you know, to have that policy in place early on, now it comes time, and God forbid you need it for that reason, you know, that you have to bury somebody, but you're building a college fund, if you would, through that. You're doing different things, but yet that protection is there in case something happens.
And to have that, so if something does occur, whether it's expected or not expected or whatever, then, you know, you have your insurance. whether they give you send you a check, cash it out, however you're going to do it, you have those funds available through insurance to be able to pay for your interment, because we don't take insurances in that way. We don't do that. Funeral homes is different. Cemeteries is another thing.
Right,
You know,
right.
it has to be paid for 100%, but we don't do insurances. You have to have your policy on this end ready for when you need it.
Right,
That
right.
it will pay for your interment.
Yeah, and
That's how it
that's
works.
important.
And there's
'cause
different ones you can
because
do.
like you said, I mean, I had to go to the cemetery and physically make those arrangements, because
Right.
you're not getting buried until the cemetery's paid. Now,
Right.
funeral homes will work with you a little bit, but cemeteries can't.
It's different.
Yeah, they can't. They've got to be paid and all
Those
that.
times have changed. Back
Yeah.
in the day, maybe, but the
Yeah,
times
yeah,
have changed.
yeah, but it changed drastically. So you know, make the plan. I can't stress it enough how much of a burden it will relieve you from. I mean, you face it on a daily basis. I hear the horror stories that you tell me of people coming in there because you want the best for your loved ones. You really do. When that time hits you, you really want the best. And a lot of people aren't prepared for that,
Right.
and it takes them by surprise. Now what are they going to do? And you deal with it a lot where, you know, I don't want my family going to Potter's Field, but
Right.
you ain't got the money to bury them. So what's
Yeah.
your choice? You know, you sell everything they got and they still ain't enough. You know, you still owe bills. You know,
Right.
so there's different things. We're out of time, Miss Claudia, but you know, it's always a pleasure. I just you know, I can't stress enough, folks. You pick up the phone, and call Claudia. She'd be more than happy
Absolutely.
to answer questions for you, guide you in the right direction. Be it if you're pre-planning or you're lost
Or
a
if
loved
it's at
one.
need,
Yeah.
yeah.
It happens right now. A phone number they can reach you at.
Well, we're located at 3300 Lancaster Avenue in Wilmington, right between DuPont Road and Lancaster Avenue, and our number is 302-658-0953.
It's that easy. So if you want any information whatsoever, pick up the website. It's all there for you.
Everything's there.
Yeah, and if you just want to stroll and enjoy a day of reading and history, go stroll through the park. Claudia's usually there, along with a lot of the guys are always
guys will
there.
be out
yeah.
there.
Yeah, they're always working. Until next time, for Silverbrook Cemetery, for Claudia and the White family, don't want to forget the Whites, Paul. We'll see you later, hopefully, you know, real soon. Until then, we'll see you guys. Bye-bye.